Hello, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Emily Sophia, and I am going to break down for you fantastic people the latest trailer for NBC's Hannibal. Okay, so for those of you who don't know, I actually did review most of the first season of the show. I was a little bit slow in the uptake, so I think that I started around the 5th episode, and then I went through to the finale of that season. So if you would like to check out any of my earlier vlogs about the show, you can do so in the description link as well as here. And a couple of my latest videos that I've done as well that I'd love for you guys to check out include my review of The Last of Us, my very first video game review, as well as my review of the first episode of The Wolf Among Us. Again, if you've never played those games, you can watch the reviews. I have spoiler-free sections. And I also reviewed the new Spike Jonze film, Her. So you guys have those to check out if you'd like to queue them up, if you're doing your freaking laundry, if you are baking a delicious dessert, then you could watch or listen to them like a podcast. And speaking of food, let us dive into this Hannibal business. If you guys are not yet caught up on the first season, then please save yourself from finding out everything in the universe. Go watch the show, come back here, and let's talk about the new trailer. And I have a link as well for that in case you need to find it. So let us talk about this. I'm going to break down the trailer for you in full. I am going to rant, I am going to rave, I'm going to do all the things that I always do in my reviews. So let's dive into this madness, shall we? Alright, so in case y'all didn't know, Hannibal really screwed the pooch. And you do not screw Will's pooches, okay? Screwing with Will is essentially screwing his pooches, and that's just not natural. But then again, I dare say that Hannibal's not exactly an advocate for humane treatment of living beings, no matter how ornately he prepares them for the silver platter. We all know this, okay? So let's walk through the trailer step by freaking step. I also broke down that section earlier in the trailer where it's kind of like a vomiting up of scenes. You can't really tell what's going on. I clicked like a freaking mad woman. I had some coffee earlier, so I think that helped. And I paused everything, so frame by frame I'll take you through what I saw with my reactions to that. So we start off the trailer, you know, there's a little bit of rehashing of footage from the previous season, and you know, people complain about that, but I think that the reason why they do that, the people who produce these trailers, is to sort of contextualize the new season, to kind of remind viewers of what happened before, remind them why they're going to weep and gnash their teeth for the next few months, and you know, it kind of gives that emotional momentum as well, so it just sort of reminds us where we've been and all that. So we got Jack Crawford, and he is saying, you know, in my time I've seen people broken by the world by this work that we do. You just can't take it all in. My biggest fear is that we'll learn that you knew what you were doing the whole time. The person he's referring to being Will Graham. So this is when, you know, we've got that kind of like dubstep breakdown thing in the background, and they've got all the scenes like so. I'm gonna tell you exactly what happened in those scenes. I even took notes so I wouldn't forget. So let's do this. So number one, we see a couple of corpses ready to be tagged and bagged, and from the look of things, they've been recovered from a watery grave, or at least it looks like one of the guys has a sea plant sprouting out of his unsightly chest, so I assume that's a thing. I'm guessing that they were deep under the sea. Number two, we see Hannibal clad in suit, tie, and medical gloves. And this guy, and he's standing in the middle of a cornfield, and there's a dead guy in front of him laying on top of this examination table with like a sink at the head of it. Yeah, you know, nothing out of the ordinary, just kind of that farm life, you know. People get lost. Then number three, what do you know? Another body, and this guy looks strangely, he almost kind of looks like this metallic human sculpture that got shattered from the jawline down to the torso. And he's got a really grotesque wound, like just under the rib cage, and probably yet another case that all the king's horses and all the king's men will not be able to put back together again. Just my guess. And then number four, we see this octopus-looking creature in what looks to be, I actually don't even know. I looked at it for a really long time. And I like to think that it's some crazy Hannibal dish, but heaven, or should I say hell, even knows what exactly it's about. It's tough to decipher the context, and that's kind of how the show's cinematography works, is it really disorients you in that way. And then number 5, we see a close-up shot of an old man with completely blacked out eyes, or should I say no eyes at all. They're black. You know, nothing to give you nightmares or anything. And then number 6, there's a syringe filled with something that's probably not grape juice as well. And immediately afterwards, we see something that is really particularly getting under my skin here, is a likely unconscious Will Graham. And his head is lolled backwards, luckily not decapitated at this point, and his head is in the gloved hands of Hannibal. And I'm guessing that it's Hannibal because it looks like these hands are in that weird crazy kill suit that Hannibal was wearing when he took out the faceless chick in the last season. You know, the girl who couldn't decipher faces. I don't remember what her name was. It was like George, or it was some kind of like male, female, androgynous name. I don't know. Anyways, and Will also has something in his mouth. And again, it's arguably not filled with grape juice or something benign. I don't know what to think. But chances are, you know, rather than thinking I'm probably going to flail on the floor for the cause of Will Graham's much needed justice at this point. And I already just feel really sick in pretty much every way, shape, and form. And then the next scene, which appears to be similar to the octopus shot from earlier. It looks like, you know, we've got an assortment of fruits and veggies with the skull of a small animal to complete the wholesome buffet. Okay, and then number 9, there's a hand, a knife, and a pale cut of mystery meat. Number 10, a human head that is all kinds of not okay, as well as not exactly intact in any way, shape, or form. What do you know? And number 11, we see Will Graham looking up, justifiably distressed in kind of a subdued but winded way. So I'm guessing that he is regarding everyone's favorite, not so passive-aggressive, cannibalistic backstabber. Just a thought. And next we have Jack Crawford saying, Will Graham, you're under arrest for murder. We were kind of guessing that such an atrocity was going to occur. And then he says, you know, Will Graham claims that someone else committed the crimes he's accused of. Or no, that's not Jack. That's Hannibal. Hannibal is saying that, you know, kind of working through the situation. To which Jack Crawford says, well, he said that person was you. Crack open the DNA sampling kit, and so it begins. And, you know, Hannibal says, well, you have to investigate me. It's in my best interest. Hoy, hoy, hoy. And then we go back to Jack Crawford, who is on yet another rant, saying Will Graham is either delusional or he's a psychopath, neither of which I can trust. Good for you, buddy. Neither can we. And then a reassembled Dr. Chilton says, to who I'm guessing is Hannibal, he's toying with you. He tells everyone that you're a monster. Or, I mean, I guess he could be talking about Will as well. I don't know. They keep doing these, like, over-the-shoulder shots where you can't really tell who's talking to who, and, you know, just kind of trying to keep that sense of mystery. But then, of course, we see Hannibal saying there are days when even Will doesn't understand his own thinking. Yeah, and it's probably because you have your grubby little mitts up in there trying to prevent any and all thinking. And then we have Jack Crawford coming up to Will in the clink, and he says, we investigated your claims about Dr. Lecter in this very patronizing kind of way. And immediately after that, we see Hannibal is whining and dining on his lonesome. And then Jack saying, I look at my friend and I see a killer. And then after that, and again, it's hard to tell who Jack is actually talking about. It could be either Will or Hannibal, and it's kind of weird how there's this mystery about who's going on, or what's going on with who. It's all a little bit ambiguous. And then we see that Hannibal, having taken over Will's job in his hiatus from the field, was leaning over a corpse, and it's that same one that looks kind of like that splintered and crinkled, kind of broken mirror thing. And of course he takes a very deep whiff, and professional though he may be, we'll have to see if he can actually keep it in his pants. And then we see Hannibal checks on his little caged canary, but I would say that a little hello Will is going to heal all ills at this point in time. What next? Oh yes, and of course we see the Wendigo arising from the river. Probably a vision of Will's, maybe a dream, or, you know, or maybe it's just time for things to get as weird as is even possible. I would be bracing myself for that. And then we see somebody's running through a cornfield. Worst location ever as far as night jogs go. I'm just saying. And then we see someone who looks like Will is going into the field chasing after him. And I'm going to assume that this is a vision of Will's or some reconstruction in the mind by some other character. I really don't know. It looked a lot like him, kind of with the, you know, the curly kind of mane that he's got going on, so I think that it was supposed to be Will. But I'm not entirely sure. And then we see Hannibal readying that lovely leg of his for his next culinary masterpiece, which he was unwrapping earlier in the trailer. And the fun just don't stop there, because we quickly find ourselves in the midst of Jack, Hannibal, in an orderly orgy of naked bodies, which revealed from this kind of like kaleidoscopian aerial shot to be something that's very grotesquely intentional. And the way the bodies are laid out, it almost looks like a human eye, kind of like the pupil in the center and then the iris, or a flower, you know, but I say, if you're gonna say it with flowers, not naked human bodies, okay? And then Will is saying, I don't know which is worse, believing I did it or believing you did this to me. Ugh, the bromantic tension unfolds, and it's not exactly bromantic at this point. And then we see who I think is Beverly Katz turning around in this kind of thinly veiled examination room. And then Hannibal's looking about as menacing as you could possibly see him, short of him actually like dismantling a corpse. But this shot is probably even worse in that he looks like he's ready to go. He's gonna get you. He's kind of like Slenderman status, just standing there. That's kind of the absolute worst. But it gets worse for Alana Bloom, who is backing away from a blood-covered Hannibal who is hot on the advance. So I retract my previous statement, okay? She's got her gun drawn. I can't even. And then, you know, this is followed by a scene of an ambiguous grinnish thing on the face of Hannibal and this sort of scowlish thing on the face of Jack, which is followed by Jack narrowly avoiding getting stabbed in the chest as Hannibal freaking goes ham on him, and he, you know, Jack whips out a cutting board to try and save himself. But he doesn't exactly come out unscathed, being that he runs into the wine cellar spurting blood out of his neck, and then Hannibal's not content to let his little chicken run around with his head cut off, and he backs it on up, and he just freaking full body rams into the door. And that's all we really know. That's all we really know, is that Hannibal's apparently trying to kill everybody. And if that's what they're showing in the trailer, I don't know if I want to watch this season. I'm scared. I don't know what they could possibly do that's worse than this. I mean, this to me seems like a really critical plot point in the story, and something that, you know, they want to keep veiled until the last possible second. But the fact that they're showing us this in the trailer, I mean, are they dumb? I feel like I'm being played. I feel like I'm being tricked, because I can't accept this as reality. I mean, it's not that I'm like a diehard fan of Jack Crawford. He's kind of a douchewagon. You know, he put Will into this situation by ignoring all the warning signs, and granted, a lot of this is the fault of Hannibal. Hannibal's taking advantage of what Jack Crawford started. So, I mean, if he really does die after this, I wouldn't feel all that bad, but it still just feels really huge that they just throw this in our face like, ha, here you go, have fun. Stay tuned for the next season of Death and Murder. And, you know, so this trip to hell and back ultimately culminates in Will promising that he will remember and there will be a reckoning and his fans will avenge him. At least, I hope that he knows that. And there's a very real rebellion brewing just beyond the television screen that he's trapped in. And if it's the last thing we do, we need to freaking break into that separate dimension of reality and save Hugh Dancy's alternate self from Mads Mikkelsen's alternate self. And we'd better prepare ourselves to save everybody else as well, because it appears that the Raven Stag is rearing its horns this season, okay? So that's the trailer. You know, it's a big old bucket of monkeys and fun. Rainbows, unicorns, what have you. That's pretty much the only way I can really sum that up. So what did you guys think of the trailer? Are you excited? Do you have your heart medication? Do you have your Depends? Have you chopped down the necessary forests to supply your tissues? Are your toilets working? Are your sinks working? Make sure that there's no decapitated ears in them as well. I'm just trying to help you guys get prepared because I'm really freaked out about this season. I mean, there is a steep lineup for spring TV this year, and I just don't know how good I'm gonna feel about life at all. I'm getting ready to graduate college, and I get to watch these horrible, depressing shows to spur me on to victory, but I don't know, man. I don't know. I swear I'm gonna be an alcoholic by the time all is said and done, but as long as you guys, you know, join me at the bar, we'll laugh, we'll cry, we'll, you know, and any and all things, it's gonna happen. Yeah, but any theories as to why these scenes with, you know, with Beverly, with Alana, and with Jack especially are being shown in the trailer? There have been some trailers, like this happened in Dexter as well, where we think that something terrible happens, that somebody dies. Like there is this one trailer in which we, like Dexter is in public and he stabs this woman right in the throat or something like that. And that was actually a dream sequence. So now I'm just all paranoid, or I'm trying to talk myself down from these things being reality because I just can't fathom why they would show something that huge. But, you know, some trailers are more spoilery than others, and I certainly didn't expect anything less than pain and torment and misery for pretty much everyone, but I'm still really blown away. I had to watch the trailer a couple of times just to take it all in, and I don't even freaking want to digest it. I just don't. And, you know, according to some interviews that I've read with Brian Fuller, things get even grislier this season, and yet the violence is really operatic and stylized, so it kind of helps him separate. I don't know how well I'll be able to separate. There were some episodes last season that literally had me, like, I had to leave the room during this one episode, the one where, like, the eyes were getting gouged out. Could not, would not. I couldn't even go there. Yeah, there's a lot of interesting characters that are due to join the lineup. I've even heard rumors about David Bowie coming in as Hannibal's uncle. I don't know about this season. Maybe in the future. And even a certain David Tennant, maybe as like the creep of the week or something. Hopefully something more, because, you know, I certainly wouldn't mind. But yeah, so there's a lot of news to look up. Feel free to check out the rumors and the updates and comment below. Let me know what you think. And also tweet me, Facebook me, and Tumblr me, and I'll respond if and when I can. Even if I don't, I love you guys like crazy. Thank you so much for being fans with me, and I can't wait to do this season with you. I will also be doing Bates Motel and The Walking Dead, possibly Game of Thrones by the time the 4th season comes around too. So you guys take care, and I'll be back before you know it.